Welcome back to Radically Rational Radio, and in this episode we're going to talk more about the US dollar and why we need to have concern about it no longer being the world currency. I know I covered this when it originally happened. For anyone who missed it, France settled their first liquid natural gas trade using the Chinese Yuan. They had also purchased it from Russia. Now this isn't a random Middle Eastern country or a country in Africa. This is France, dead center of the EU. On top of that, Saudi Arabia, Russia, and Brazil are using the Chinese Yuan for trade. Just over this past week, Saudi Arabia publicly stated they are no longer interested in pleading the U.S. Saudi Arabia is attempting to adopt an economic strategy without U.S. dependence. China's yuan replaced U.S. dollar, becoming the most traded currency in Russia. OPEC issues surprise production cuts against U.S. advice. Malaysia says there's no reason to depend on the U.S. dollar. According to Financial Times, this is because Saudi Arabia's relationships with the U.S. have declined under the Biden administration. Financial Times is a U.S. publication, and I don't think they're being biased. I think that's an accurate statement. Go on YouTube and search any country's world news. You would not find their depiction of our president very flattering. Just last week, Saudi Arabia announced a new facility using Chinese yuan worth $12.2 billion. This is probably one of the biggest ones that we will not be able to backtrack from. Saudi Arabia is also considering selling oil in Chinese yuan rather than US dollar. This is the biggest push against the US dollar in recent history. At first glance, you could say, well, why does it matter if people trade in dollars or yuan for oil? Over the past couple of years, a lot more people realized how stocks and crypto work. Primarily, when everyone is selling their position, the price goes down. And when people are buying a position, the price goes up. With the US dollar both being the banking reserve for the Western world, and the petrodollar forcing every country across the whole world having to keep dollars on their spreadsheet just for purchasing oil, that keeps the price artificially high. Once countries no longer need to hold dollars on their balance sheets, they're going to start selling them. And just like any stock or any cryptocurrency, if a country sells half their dollars, that would be a massive hit to our inflation. If we think our money isn't worth much now, have a country like China that holds over $1 trillion US. Let them sell half of those dollars back to the market. Our dollar would immediately drop its value in 30%. And there's nothing we can do about it. Just like any other cryptocurrency, if there's a whale and he just wants to sell at a loss, they can. And China most definitely will. And today, French President Merkel is currently in China signing trade accords while his country is protesting their pension fund. And as of just a couple of hours ago, a protest has been taken over at BlackRock headquarters in Paris, France. It seems pretty clear that China and Saudi Arabia, Russia, and the rest of BRICS all have a pretty good plan on how they can move forward while removing us as an equation altogether. What should truly scare us, my generation and our next generation, have just never been weaker. We've never really lived in hard times. Even the poorest of us know what it's like to eat food, have internet, and play video games. If over the next 2 years, America gets incredibly hard to live in, I don't know how most of us are going to make it. This isn't intended to scare you. It's just important to not be ignorant about what's happening so that way you can be prepared and not caught off guard. I'm Tristan. This has been Radically Rational Radio. Like, comment, and subscribe. Stay resilient.